Rain poured over the city like it wanted to wash everything away. The street was empty, cold, and filled with shadows of a life that had collapsed. He walked slowly, holding nothing but an umbrella. Once he was a CEO, a man who ruled boardrooms, who signed contracts worth millions. Now his empire was gone, his wealth stolen, by men who called themselves his friends, his reputation crushed by scandals he did not create, his name dragged into dirt. He had no driver, no mansion waiting for him, just silence, just the sound of his own footsteps, echoing on wet pavement. That was when he heard it, a faint cry. It was not the cry of an adult. It was soft, fragile, almost drowned by the rain. He turned. At first he saw nothing, only the dark trees lining the old road, but the sound grew stronger. He followed it, pushing through the branches until he reached the trunk of a large tree. There, hidden in a rough net hanging from a branch, was a little girl. She was no older than 6. Her face was pale, her lips trembling from the cold. Her small hands clutched a red cloth wrapped around her body. Her eyes opened slowly, wide and afraid. The man froze. Why was a child left like this? Who would abandon her in the storm? She looked at him, and in that moment, something in his chest shifted. The same man who had lost everything, who believed his heart had turned to stone, felt it beat again. He stepped closer. The rain dripped from the umbrella, but his eyes never left hers. "Don't be afraid," he whispered, his voice heavy with pain. He did not expect her to understand. The girl did not answer. Her lips moved, but no words came. Instead, she lifted one trembling hand as if asking him to take her out of that hanging net. Without hesitation, he lowered his umbrella and reached up. The rope was rough, wet, almost cutting his skin, but he pulled it down until he could hold her. The girl was light, too light for her age, as if hunger had lived with her for far too long. She pressed her face against his chest. He felt her shaking, not only from the rain but from fear buried deep inside her. He covered her with the umbrella and started walking again. His black suit was soaked, but he didn't care. For the first time since he lost his empire, he had something to protect. The road stretched ahead, lonely and endless. He had no idea where to take her, no home, no family. Only a single small apartment that was never meant for a child. But then she whispered. It was so soft he almost thought he imagined it. "I only have a mom." The words froze him in place. He looked down. Her eyes were half closed, yet there was a strange glow in them, a glow no child should have. He tried to ask what she meant, but she had already fallen asleep in his arms. The man kept walking through the storm, unaware that the girl he carried was no ordinary child, that behind her fragile face lived a secret, one that could change his ruined fate, one that could bring him back everything he had lost, and one that could destroy him if he made the wrong choice. As the rain fell harder, he held her tighter. He did not know it yet, but the night he found her would be the night his story began again. The storm did not stop. He walked for miles, the little girl asleep against his chest. Every step felt heavier, but he did not let go. By the time he reached his small apartment, his clothes were soaked through. He pushed the door open with his shoulder, laid her carefully on the old sofa, and covered her with a thin blanket. For the first time, he could look at her closely. Her face was delicate, her skin pale, her breathing slow. She looked like she had not eaten properly in days. He boiled water, made a small bowl of soup, and waited. When she opened her eyes, she looked around the room with quiet suspicion. Then her gaze returned to him. "Are you hungry?" he asked. She nodded. She ate in silence, every spoonful slow, almost careful, as if she was not used to being fed. When she finished, she looked at him again. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Her lips parted. There was hesitation. Then a single word, "Lila." It was simple, yet it carried weight, like it belonged to an older soul. He smiled faintly. Something he had not done in months. Adrian, she did not smile back. Instead, she whispered again. You lost everything. The words cut through. Him. His hand froze on the empty bowl. He had never told her that. He had never spoken a single word about his past. How do you know that? He asked, his voice sharp. She only looked at him with those glowing eyes. I can see it. Adrian stared. Unsure if he was exhausted or if this child was something else. He felt unease, but also curiosity. The girl was fragile, yet there was power in her voice. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, the room grew silent. Adrian realized the stranger he had brought home might be the key to his future, or the end of it. Adrian could not sleep that night. The girl's words echoed in his mind. You lost everything. He watched her from the chair beside the sofa. She slept peacefully, as if the storm outside belonged to another world. But there was a strange presence in the room, something he could not explain. At dawn, he heard her whispering in her sleep. Her small hands moved as though tracing shapes in the air. Then the air shifted. The broken lamp on the table flickered and glowed. Its shattered bulb lit for a second, then went dark again. Adrian stood stunned. This was no ordinary child. When she woke, she looked at him calmly. Don't be afraid, she said softly. You need me. He frowned. Need you? For what? To take back what was stolen, she answered, as if it was the simplest truth. Adrian's chest tightened. No one else knew how deeply he longed to reclaim his company. His enemies had destroyed him, taken his empire, left him with nothing but shame. And here was this child, speaking like she knew every corner of his broken heart. Who are you really? He demanded. Her eyes glowed faintly again. I am a witch, she whispered. My mother taught me before she was taken from me. The word hung in the air like a blade. Adrian wanted to laugh, to dismiss it as imagination. But he had seen the lamp. He had felt the shift in the air. She stepped closer, her small hand touching his arm. If you trust me, I can help you rise again, but you must protect me. They are looking for me too. Adrian stared down at her. The world had taken everything from him. Now it gave him a choice he did not. Understand, trust the little witch, or lose his last chance. Adrian stood frozen. The girl's words pressed against his mind like a weight. A witch, a child with power beyond reason. And yet, she was the only one who had reached into his emptiness and spoken truth. Days passed. Lila stayed in his apartment, quiet but never helpless. Each night he saw her whisper to the shadows, saw broken things mend for a moment before falling, apart again. She was learning to control what lived inside her. One evening, she asked him to take her outside. They walked together. Through the old streets, Adrian noticed something strange. People who once ignored him now glanced his way with unease, as if they felt a force they could not name. Lila walked beside him, calm, her small hand holding his. Your enemies are weak, she said. They hide behind money and lies. But I can show you where they bleed. Adrian's heart raced. Revenge had burned in him since the day his empire fell, but hearing it from her lips felt dangerous, almost tempting. Why would you help me? He asked. She stopped, her eyes sharp under the streetlight. Because you saved me, and because they hurt you the way they hurt my mother. Her words shook him. For the first time, he saw her not as a child, but as someone carrying wounds as deep as his own. The next weeks blurred into battle. With Lila's guidance, Adrian confronted old partners who had betrayed him. Secrets came to light. Deals crumbled. The empire they stole from him began to fall apart piece by piece. Yet through it all, he never let her out of his sight. He remembered her warning. Others were searching for her, shadows of men who wanted her power for themselves. One night, as fire consumed the last office of his enemy, Adrian stood with Lila on a rooftop. The city lights burned below, rain falling softly again. "It's over," he whispered. But Lila shook her head. "No, this is only the beginning. One day, they will come for me. When that day arrives, you must decide who you really are." Adrian looked at her, this child who had given him back his empire. He realized she was not just his savior. She was his responsibility. And as the storm rolled over the city, Adrian tightened his grip on her hand. Whatever came next, they would face it together.